All right, so we're joined by my friend all the way down to Sonora, Texas, Jack Harper, Regional Sales Manager for Diamond V Feed, also part of the Veterinarians Outlet there in Vega, Texas. We thank you so much for joining us again. Always a great way to start our school year when we talk about our career clusters, as you've been in the agriculture career cluster for so long. And I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. This is our college and career readiness class. We're in the agriculture career cluster. And we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you once again for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here and appreciate you bringing me back. Manny will join us here in a little bit, and I've got a surprise guest. Figured we'd bring in somebody intelligent to talk to you for once.
All right. So obviously, while we're waiting on him and while we're getting started here, just give us a little background. You know, you're from Texas, went to Texas Tech University, went to Oklahoma State University for your master's, and then spent 12 years, how long did you work
Eight,
at SMU? 8 years
8 years
at
at
Southern Methodist.
SMU. Yep.
8 years down at SMU in Dallas, and then moved to a full-time acquisition. So just give us a little bit about that timeline and how you got so deep into the agricultural business.
So, I mean, from day one, I grew up working around dairies. My dad was a veterinarian. He owned Veterinarians Outlet and Integrated Dairy Services. Um, just as a kid, it was one of those things like wake up, go along with dad to, what they call vet check, herd check, and just tag along, whether, giving shots, trying to help move cows, whatever it was, just in there in the pens, getting to know these guys that work on all these dairy farms, and having a good time with them. Went off to school, thought I was going to teach and coach, got involved in intramural sports while I was there, referee and a supervisor, much like you did. And then, just kept on learning that there were a lot of opportunities there, like being able to go to grad school and have them pay for that as a graduate assistant. So I went that route, finished up at Oklahoma State, got that master's degree, went over to Southern Methodist and was running the intramurals and sport clubs there. Did that for 8 years. And just by the end of the 8 years, I was like, man, I need to try something different. I need out of Dallas. I need off campus. I need something different. So I went back to my dad to talk to some of those guys that I grew up around, some of those sales reps. He gave me some phone numbers. I was going to call some of those guys, but like 3 weeks later, the old man calls me and says, "Hey, did you talk to any of them?" "No, not yet." "Well, don't call them. Just come work for me. I just had a guy quit." I was like, "Well, I don't want to move back to Erath County," and that's where I grew up. I grew up in Erath County, right in the middle of Central Texas. I was like, "Man, I just don't want to move back to Erath County." He goes, "Even better. I'm going to move you to Hartley." I was like, "All right, sounds good." Hartley doesn't even have a stoplight. All right. So I moved out to the panhandle of Texas, sight unseen, lived in a place I call the Hartley Hotel. That was also the office. And that was where I really got into working with dairies full time. Then switched to Diamond V in February of 2020. So
Yeah, and I
that's
think
where
that's
I'm at
important.
now.
Yeah, and that's cool because I think kids don't understand. Agriculture is not just down in the dirt. I mean, if you like being on the farm, uh, dealing with all that. Obviously, this is a great fit for you. But there is so much sales involved. There's marketing involved. There's a lot of technology, a lot of engineering, and and we have some great agriculture programs here in Mississippi. Mississippi State University, Alcorn State University, a lot of great community colleges can teach agriculture, but this is something that you can make a lot of money in, whether or not you are a college person or not.
Yeah. I mean, and there are people that I work with even at Diamond V. We range everywhere from DVMs, the veterinarians, PhDs, down to guys who, may or may not have any degree whatsoever. If you are able to bring value to a dairy producer, and this goes agriculture everywhere, if you're able to bring value and help those guys on the farm, in the production of food for the world, they're going to find a spot for you. And they it's really hard to find good people to work in agriculture to show support. And so if you can bring value, you can bring some knowledge. show that you can work hard, you're going to go a long, long ways in this.
Yeah, and I know you're dealing with several thousand dairy cows a week, and we've looked at
Yeah.
some of the automatic milkers. You know, these are you're it's not like back you see in the old days where you're down there squeezing. There's machines to do it. There's the machines that feed. But if you're an engineering type person, this could be a great engineering job. You had the machine you showed us before that created the cow chow. That we need
Yep.
you need drone pilots. So there's a
Yep.
lot of technical people that they may hate being in the dirt, but they can be a great person in ag.
Yep. And like I said, this morning, those guys have already been on the dairy for 5, 6 hours already. They're out there, they're making the feed. The milking never stops. They're going around the clock.
Wow.
There's technology that goes into that. I mean, these guys, they build the barn and they put as many cows in on the farm as they possibly can that can go through that barn in one day. However
Wow.
many times they decide to do it, whether they're doing it 2 times, 3 times, whatever they're wanting to do, they're always talking about, hey, how do I get it to be more efficient, more efficient, more efficient?
Wow.
I'm talking to one guy. He's talking about adding, I think, another 5 stalls on each side of his barn. He's either 5 or 10, I can't remember for sure, but he's going to add 5 or 10 stalls, and it's going to add 1,000 cows onto his dairy. So just by adding that little bit, he's going to be able to
Wow.
jump up and milk a whole lot more cows because, like I say, they're maximizing it all the time.
Yeah. And that demand is never going to go away. A lot of businesses have trends where they go up and down, but the need for people to have healthy food is never going to go away.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, healthy food, ice cream, whatever, I mean, it's not just healthy food. Let's just call it good food all the way around because there's
Yeah,
so many things that have dairy in it. And they're not always necessarily healthy, but by golly, they're good.
dang right. Now I saw Manny had joined us. He left, but we'll wait till he
Oh,
gets.
I'm still here. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm currently driving, so the camera thing is kind of complicated.
No problem. We'll have Jack. We'll have Jack introduce you whenever you get settled here.
Okay.
Now, one thing, Jack, also is you're a big regional sales rep for Diamond V Feed, and I think that's a area of agriculture that I think our kids may not realize is a huge thing. You need great salespeople, and look, I get on a soapbox all the time about you don't necessarily need a degree to be a great salesperson, but if you can sell anything, you can always find a job. So it's all about meeting
Absolutely.
learning a little bit about what you're selling and then, finding out what your customer needs and then going back and say, look, here's what we can offer you. And these kids get so upset when we make them speak, when we make them present, but that is a skill that can literally make you thousands upon thousands of dollars if you can find a way to reach customers where they are and sell anything.
Absolutely. And it's one of my pet peeves right now because so many people my age, they get out there and, little Johnny is going to sell some tickets for his little league baseball team, and they make a post on Facebook and they want everybody to just call and or just buy them right there without little Johnny doing anything. And one of the things I do all the time is I will send that parent a message. I'm like, you have little Johnny call me, and if he'll sell me these tickets, I'm going to buy them. But I'm not going to buy them just because you made a Facebook post. And it actually worked out well. A friend of mine, his daughter was selling some of those last week. I won the Blackstone Grill, but I did make her call me, and then she had to call me
Okay.
again whenever I won. And so that's something that we're losing. And I think Manny's going to agree with me. There are a lot of people out there that it's just really hard to find people that can communicate effectively, and figure out what people need and how to deliver that to them.
Absolutely. And when we talked about all these technological advances, if these kids are going and getting certified to fly drones or getting a machinist certification to work on these automatic feeders, automatic milkers, they're still going to have to explain to the farmer or the customer, look, here's what's wrong with it, here's how it works, here's what we got, and here's how much it costs.
Yeah, and I mean that's actually a really good segue into introduction of Manny, because whenever I was working in Veterinarian's Outlet, I'd hear his name around. We'd run into each other every now and then. But then I came over to Diamond V and I started doing more with technology. Well, what I was figuring out, like I'd walk onto a dairy, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, ask Manny." They never call him anything else. They never say who he works for. They just say, "Talk to Manny. Manny's my guy. Talk to Manny.
Yeah.
Talk to Manny." or they'll call him Senior Manny, because they want to respect him. Give him that respect from Senior Manny. But
Or
and then
don't.
one day he finally walks in and I'm sitting there trying to get a computer to do something. He walks in, he click on that computer. It did a backflip and a 360, turned around and just took off and started running the right way. So Manny takes technology on a dairy to a whole nother level, and I'm going to
Oh,
let him give his proper introduction. But there's the nuts and bolts of what Manny does.
awesome. Hey, thanks, Jack. Yeah, so just a quick introduction. I was essentially a herdsman at a dairy farm for about 10 years, and then I moved up to like the management position. But the way I started in dairy is my dad was a manager at a dairy in Plainview, Texas, and he was also part owner. And so I was actually a computer science major, so I was going to school for computer science. Ended up finding out that I didn't like school, and so I just went back to the farm. But then I found out that at the farm it was just only cows, right? So I was a cow pusher. This is the person that brings up the cows to go to the milk barn. So I did that for about 2 years, and it was just me and the cows, right? I didn't do anything else but push cows up for 2 years just to make a living. And so my dad actually gave me like the opportunity to move up within the company. He didn't want me just to, hey, just because you're good at computer science, you're going to be the Excel guy. So I had to work my way through the ranks. Yeah, I had to work my way through the ranks, and I had to learn everything about the dairy. So from cow pushing to then I was a milker putting the machines on. Then I became the parlor supervisor slash maternity guy. And so what that entailed is that I had to make sure that the crew would show up, and then also any calf that would hit the ground. So I had the night shift, which was from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for about a year and a half. So I was making sure that the calves were being fed at night, that the mamas were having the calves properly. So I did that for about 2 years. So anyway, long story short, I was always good at computers, and the owners had a meeting, and they were like, "Hey, like we want to take the dairy to the next level, but we're using tools that are antiquated." So anyway, they had this program called Dairy Comp, and so my dad and the other guy were like, "Hey, like learn this thing, right?" And so within a couple of weeks, I grabbed it because it just came natural to me. Because it's still to this day, it's 2025, but it runs on syntax, and so it's very, very natural. Because I mean, with code, that's what it is, right? It's syntax. So anyway, moving forward, at the time, there was a couple of companies coming to the dairy trying to sell us these Fitbits. And so we had the opportunity to buy two different types, and they're actually the leaders in the market now. And so we did one for about a year and a half, but they weren't ready yet. Like they didn't really understand. They understood more of the beef side, but didn't understand the dairy side. And then we migrated to another system, and I got to learn both. Well, one of the largest dairies in the world actually uses the last one that we ended up having. And so I dove into that system. I wanted to see all the data points. I wanted to see how it all worked. I wanted to see what the algorithms look like. And at the time, when I was still at the dairy, I was extremely frustrated because I had one software that's how we fed the cows. We had another software that would give us our outputs, right? So you have a sensor on a cow that tells you how much milk she's giving. And so we had a bunch of different data points that in my mind, I was like, why don't they just make one where all of these talk? And so
There you go.
it turned into a nightmare. And so when then I went back to my roots, and I told my dad and them, I said, look, I'm going to build a platform that will just grab all this data, and then we'll just
Wow.
visualize it on a dashboard. And so
Wow.
when I left the dairy, then I started doing it for more and more dairies. And it's like how Jack said, that's why a lot of people just say Manny. They don't really know the company name. Because it's funny he said that because I wanted to rebrand. So the company name is Dairy Performance Network. And
Okay.
about 5 years ago, I wanted to rebrand it because I thought the name, I made the name in 2015, 2012, I believe. And so I thought the name was just antiquated, right? And so now a lot of people just call it DPN. But these people that we did the marketing with were like adamant that we called it Manny. And I was like, no, like I don't have that big of an ego yet. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And so my other guy that I ended up hiring around that time, he was like, so what? Like your shirt's going to say Manny twice and mine's going to say Manny Chris? And I was like, I don't know, dude, but like, these people keep pushing me towards that. So anyway, we ended up changing the logo and just basically going from Dairy Performance Network to DPN. And now we service about almost 800,000 cows across the United States. And that puts it at like 120, about 120 dairies anywhere from North Carolina to California to Washington, and
Wow.
then a couple in Mexico. And so that's what we do now. We basically help the farms integrate all their data, but then we also support all that crap because what ends up happening is a company will go in there, sell their standalone system, right? Then the dairyman has to go through all the headaches of learning it. But then the dairyman comes to the realization of what I realized a few years ago. It's like, okay, why can't these two talk? So then they call us, we integrate them, and then we support them because essentially, if it's like it's bad data in, bad data out, right? So if one breaks, then we have to fix the source in order for their information to be actually useful. So
Wow.
that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, I think that's really cool because I never would have thought of that because, and I think a lot of kids may not realize, and that's a great point about all these different software systems. It is so much easier when they all talk together. So you could be an IT person and find a great footing in ag. You could be a computer
Yep.
science person and have a great footing in ag and not necessarily
Yep.
have the 4 year degree. Get some of those certifications, learn some of these programs, and then you could be literally a person that sits at a desk working on a computer, but you're an ag professional helping these farms produce so much product so much quicker.
Yep. And what we're running into now is that more and more dairies are moving, like more and more platforms are going to the cloud, right? So you'll go into rural America where there's no internet. Well, now they're having to call somebody that, could potentially
Wow.
be 2 hours away to come set up their wireless network. So then luckily, our company has grown that we're able to do that now. But then you're getting into
Wow.
the AI side of things. So, there's a company out there called Cattle Care that essentially uh, with the sitting camera system that's there now, they sit there and analyze how the milkers, the actual people, are performing, and
Wow.
then they give those insights back to the dairy. But in order for you to get to that level, you got to have a good internet connection, good quality cameras. And so there's an infrastructure. So when it comes to dairies, 10, 15 years ago, I would have said, well, what is IT? We could handle everything on a small little router. But now these infrastructures are growing that it's weird. Now you need dairy kids that could potentially be either computer science majors or IT networking programmers with their CCNA certificates. So it's like really changing and evolving in
Wow.
that direction. Back then, all you needed to do was, hey, I'm an animal science major and I can be a vet or a nutritionist or a reproduction consultant. Well, now with this whole data space that has kind of opened up, you need all these other types of people with these traits.
Wow.
And then I can get into the whole AI thing because I think that's what's going to really evolve everything, not just ag.
Manny, how many people are working for you that have almost zero dairy background and rarely come home smelling like a dairy cow?
Four,
Okay. And
four.
it's a company of how many?
It's a company of eight.
Okay. So half of this company that's working on 800,000 cows does not have dairy experience.
Yeah,
You know, if
Wow.
yeah.
you told them to identify a cow or a bull, they may not
They
be
don't
able
know
to
the difference.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
actually took one of my programmers out to a fresh pen and I told the herdsman, I was like, hey, that cow's pretty dirty. Why don't you like just clean her off a little bit? That way he can get the stench. I've never seen somebody scream so loud and run so fast. I never saw the kid again. And I was like, hey, so I take it you don't want to be around the cows. He goes, dude, I'll stick behind the computer all day long. I don't want anything to do with this.
Wow.
He goes,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
guys,
and
he
now
was like, he goes, I had no idea that stench even existed.
yeah, and now it's funny you say that, and I want to get to their questions. I've got some really good questions, but that's funny you say that because now these colleges, I think I've seen that, and there's agriculture technology degrees, so they can go to school at. We have the two great ag programs here in Mississippi. They can get that agriculture technology degree, and they can be on top of the game when it comes to all that technology you're talking about. But I do have
Yes,
some
sir.
questions. I want to get to, these are really good, so I want to get to these. This first one is Cambry Luckett. She's in ninth grade. And she asked, "What role do you think agriculture plays in connecting people to food and food, promoting food nutrition and appreciation?"
Yeah, so I think like especially in our industry, like we're going in that direction now. There's a lot of traceability platforms. We actually built one for a dairy in Washington called Farm Tracer. So he made a deal with a high-end restaurant in Washington, and basically the restaurant owner wanted to prove to his clients where the food was coming from, right? And so like when
Wow.
you go to this restaurant now, each piece of meat has a QR code and it actually ties it back to the dairy. It tells you the
Wow.
carbon footprint. It tells you what she could have eaten if she ever got sick, and all that. And so there's this huge I wouldn't call it blockchain, but blockchain that's occurring now on a small level that I think eventually will grow up to be or to blow up to be bigger because at the end of the day, people want to know where their food comes from.
Yeah, and that was
And
actually a big article about that in Mississippi a few weeks ago. We're the catfish capital of the world, so there's a lot of opportunities for that in catfish. We have these catfish farms, so they're sourcing their catfish to where it was caught, how it was raised, so that way the customer knows they're getting fresh, nutritious catfish.
and
Gotcha.
on the same note, like a lot of dairymen and farm producers are happy to show off. They're happy to have visitors as long as it's in a controlled environment. They don't want to just have an open gate where anybody and everybody can walk in. But like last week I had a friend of mine that wanted to see a dairy. Her and her daughter wanted to see a dairy, and they brought another couple and their kids around. That dairyman said, "Man, go for it." And he just gave me a green light. We started where the calves were born, walked through where the calves lived, walked through all the milking cow pens, walked right in there to the dairy barn, watched the cows milk for a little bit, came outside. Then I run into his wife, and he's like, and she's, "Jack, you didn't bring these people ice cream while they tour my dairy?" Like they were happy to have people there and happy to have people seeing it. And you see more and more of that. Like people are building their dairies and building it around the ability to have that um, public interaction to tell people more and more about what
Transparency.
we. Yes, transparency, exactly.
Big time. This is Michaela Burke. She's in 10th grade, one of our volleyball players. And she asks, how do you feed your cows to keep milk production high?
Properly. So they every dairy has a nutrition. Well, most every dairy has a nutritionist, and they are the ones that are coming in there and they're making the formula because you're taking multiple different ingredients. You're taking some hay, you're taking some silage, you're taking cottonseed, you're taking whatever. I mean, leftover potato chips that got rejected from wherever. Guys are feeding whatever, and the nutritionist is having to figure out how to blend all this together, put it into a mixer that I'm watching with the drones, get it all properly mixed and delivered into the bunk the way it was formulated, and then make sure all the cows get enough. And so there's the technology that Manny was talking about where you have to know how many cows are in that pen, how much will each cow eat, how do we make sure we keep this in front of them. And so you've got somebody that all day every day, like if you go to a buffet, you show up and some of like the wings over there on the buffet are getting low. Somebody comes out and puts out more wings. Well, our feeders come put out more wings, but you also have guys that go in there and they push the feed up to where the cows can reach it, because otherwise it gets out of their reach. But I think the biggest way to say that is properly, because you have to get the right nutrition in front of them and you have to get enough of it consistently. And Manny, what do
Yeah,
you want to add to that?
yeah, and if to touch on that, I mean the diets have to be well balanced, right? So these guys that are building these diets, you want to make sure you get enough meat and potatoes in it, because that could essentially make cows sick if they're not getting the right nutrients, if they're not getting the right feed at the right time, it could make them sick. And so, anytime you have sick cows, like obviously they're not producing milk, right? So that's why these farmers are always on top of that because that's what Jack 70% of their cost is the feed. So it's
Oh,
very
at
very
least.
managing that, and so but yeah, that's a good point.
All right, I got time for two more. This is Deani Johnson. She's in 9th grade, one of our band members. And she asked, I like this. She goes, how do you keep up with all the machines? Do you have somebody come fix it or do you learn the maintenance yourself?
Both.
Uh, yeah, both. And it also depends on the dairy. Depending on the size of the farm, like if it's a very big farm, usually they hire in-house people. And if it's a smaller farm and they can't really afford a, $90,000 a job maintenance guy, they'll have like these service companies that just charge them per hour to go and fix some of these things. But you can
Yeah,
get
but
either or.
yeah, and that's a great, I mentioned, the machinist. The machinist programs here in Mississippi are getting bigger and bigger. That's something you can learn in a year, be certified in it. And these companies are always going to need people to learn how to fix these automation machines. And if you
Yes.
can fix that, you will always have a job.
Yes, sir. Just to touch on that, I know the big buzzwords are AI and all that. And again, being a programmer myself, I've been telling my kid for the last 7 years of his life, hey, learn how to code, learn how to code. My vision has shifted. Now I'm like, hey, go fix the plumbing in the house. Go look at electricity because I think those jobs will always be there. But the thing that I was passionate about that used to take me a month and a half to build on a computer with a script can now probably take me about 3 or 4 hours, right? And so that's kind of scary that we're now rolling into this. But I think the machinists, the electricians, the plumbers, and all that, the refrigeration, all
The
that stuff
welder.
is always going to have, yeah, the welder. You're always going to need that stuff in ag or, what other, and any other industry. And so, like,
Yeah.
talking to these kids, I would highly recommend that, sometimes you got to go back to the basics, even though computer stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and the HVAC is a very, very lucrative field here in Mississippi. And on a dairy, if that fridge goes down, you're losing money. So
Yep.
having a HVAC, an HVAC person that can fix a cooler or keep the cows at the right temperature, that is a very big deal. And HVAC
Yep.
people are very needed in agriculture.
Well,
Yes,
and
sir.
the one that's even more important, Manny, what's the milk coming out of the cow? 103?
103. Yep.
Okay, so milk comes out of the cow at 103. The faster you get it down below 36 degrees, the higher quality milk you have. Because the
Dang.
longer it takes to get cold, the it gives an opportunity for bacteria to grow. All
Wow.
right.
I never thought
Chat
about that.
GPT is not going to fix that.
Right. And so like that's a lot of these guys, like it used to be you would get into the tank and then they would cool the whole tank down. Now what these guys are using mostly it's plate cooler, it's like a heat exchanger. I don't know all the
Wow.
technical stuff for it, but I know what it is whenever I walk by it. And so it's about, depending on the size of the dairy, it's about 3 foot long, about 3 foot tall. Milk goes in one side at 103 and it comes out the other side under 36 degrees. And so
Dang.
now you're getting that milk like instantly cooled because you have 80 cows milking at one time. All that milk is coming through there, goes into a vat, goes through the chiller, and then goes right in, goes through the plate cooler and goes right into the tank at the right temperature. Because those truck drivers cannot take that milk if it is not at the right temperature.
And
And
it
if you
Wow.
tastes
have to
really
dump a
good at
load of
35
milk,
degrees, right, Jack?
you know, you're looking at thousands of dollars going down the drain just because you couldn't get it cool.
Yep.
Wow. I got
And it
time for
tastes
one
really
more.
good at 35 degrees, huh?
It
Oh,
does.
dang right. Dang right. I got time for one more. This is Ashton Leach. He's in ninth grade. And he's asking, what is your territory and where all do you travel in this career?
You want to do that, Jack? Or
Myself personally, I'm in the Texas Panhandle in eastern New Mexico, and that's where I primarily end up going. But I will go wherever I'm called. So a few weeks ago, I had to go back. I actually had to go see my mom, and while I was there visiting her, and that's in Central Texas, it's 6 hours away from where I'm at. Um, I had to go and visit some dairies down there. And so while I was down there doing things with my family, I was able to sneak off, go do and take care of some work. I've been to Reno, Nevada, into Kansas, Oklahoma, all through New Mexico.
Wow.
I mean, somebody calls and they say, "Hey, come on, let's go." I'm going to South Dakota, I think twice this year that I know of. I mean, been to Louisville, Kentucky. We travel all over the place. Fortunately, I don't end up getting status with the airlines, but I sure end up getting that stupid diamond status with the hotels. And Manny goes even bigger than I do, I think.
yeah,
Wow.
so I mean, so I live in Texas, but it's anywhere from California to Washington. About a year ago, I
Wow.
sent my other guy to Saudi Arabia, which that was a whole different animal in itself, and then Mexico. But now that I've been doing it for so long, I've kind of slowed down just to make sure I'm raising my family. But there for a while, it was basically every week I was on the road or on a plane. But anywhere from here, from Texas to Idaho to Washington to Wisconsin to
Wow.
California.
That's
And
awesome.
And I mean, while I'm doing that, even the days where I'm home can be anywhere within, 2 hours of my house or something like that. I mean, I'm putting somewhere in the ballpark of 5,000 miles a month onto a pickup. So
Wow.
it comes with travel, but the nice thing about that is you get to see a whole lot of people mixed in there. And you get to go different places. It's not just wake up and go to the same office every day. And
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy about it. Cause they've asked me, hey, what do you think about doing this? I'm like, no, if you take me away from going to see the customers, going to see the cows, I'm probably going to get in a bad mood.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you guys so much for joining us. But before we go, I don't know if you noticed, I have almost all females in here with me today, and I think a lot of times females think, there's really not a place for me in ag. It's more of a man's job. But that could not be farther from the truth. So just tell us why, these kids, especially these young ladies, could really find a great career in agriculture.
I mean,
I
you
think
nailed
for,
it right there. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
go ahead, Jeff.
we don't care what parts you have. We want you to come and do the job. I mean, and sorry to say it that way, but that's the truth. If there are good people that know how to deal with cows, it works. I know I walk into a lot of dairy barns right now, and it's almost an all-female staff milking the cows, and
Wow.
they're nicer to the cows. I mean, that's all there is to it. They're not going to try
It's
and
an instinct.
overpower them.
It's an
Yeah,
instinct.
yeah, and so especially in dairy, there are a lot of opportunities for the ladies, and whether that be on the sales side like I am, or on the production side like a lot of them are. There are always opportunities for females in this industry.
That's awesome.
And
Well,
they're better at customer support.
Yeah,
that's a great point. That's a great point. But I appreciate we appreciate you guys taking some time for us. I know y'all got to get back to it, but we appreciate it. Senior Manny and Jack Harper, all the way from Texas. We thank you guys for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for
hey,
having us.
absolutely.
I'll
Thank
talk
you.
to you soon, buddy.
All
See
right,
you.
later.